Hello class 8 and welcome to the history class. So in the last class students, if you remember, we were talking about subsidiary alliance. So do you remember what is subsidiary alliance? So see, after the Battle of Buxar between the British and the Nawab of Bengal, Mir Qasim, the British East India Company appointed certain people who were known as the residents, and the main work of the residents were to work like a spy, work like a detective for the British, so that if there is any problem in the state or if there is any movement in the state against the British, then they can go and immediately alert the British company. Okay, so these residents played a very important role in connecting the affairs, the internal affairs of the state and the company. So the British started a system of subsidiary alliance in the state. So subsidiary alliance means that the local people, not the people, but the local ruler of a particular state, he cannot maintain a army on his own. Okay, and if he has to maintain an army, then that army will go automatically under the British rule, under the British company. And in return, it is not the British who will pay something. It is the king who will pay the British a particular sum, a particular amount of money in order to ensure that the troop or the army is maintained well. And what will happen if by any chance the king cannot pay the required amount? If that happens, then the company will take over the land of that territory from the particular king who was unable to pay the fees. Okay, so this was subsidiary alliance, and this was a very major technique which the British East India Company used in order to extend their territories. And because of this subsidiary alliance, a lot of territories were being seized, a lot of land were being seized from existing kings who could not meet the demands of the British. Now let us move somewhere to the south of India. So in South India, there was a state called Mysore. There is still Mysore, and during that time, Mysore was ruled by Tipu Sultan. And before Tipu Sultan, his father Hyder Ali. So both Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali were great rulers, and they were also very good friends with the French. And if you remember, the French and the British, they were the enemies of each other in India, because both of them wanted to establish trade. So in order to teach the British a lesson and in order to make things a little easier for the French traders, the ruler, that is Tipu Sultan, he stopped, the import-export of goods from the Malabar coast, especially spices like cardamom, then cloves. These were the main things that were being exported and imported or traded in the Malabar coast. So all these were brought under the control of the Sultan, of the Nawab, Tipu Sultan. So because of this, the British really got angry, and slowly there were 4 wars fought. And in all the 3 wars, Tipu Sultan very successfully, in the first 3 wars, Tipu Sultan successfully could stop the British from conquering their land. But in the 4th battle, while safeguarding his capital, Seringapatam, in that particular battle, the Nawab or Tipu Sultan could no longer defeat the British, and in this way he met his death. So in this way, Mysore was taken over totally by the British. Then another way through which they acquired land in the northwestern part of India was by removing the Peshwa, the Maratha power. Okay, and they did this by means of 3 wars, 3 Anglo-Maratha wars, in which the Peshwa was sent somewhere near Kanpur, and all those areas which were under the Marathas, those were taken by the British. So this is what we discussed in the last class, students, if you remember. So today we will be studying about 2 more important ways through which the British expanded their territory. One is a new claim to paramountcy, and the next is the doctrine of Lebs, which is very important and very discriminatory at the same time. So students, watch the entire video. We have got 2 very interesting topics to cover today.
from trade to territory. So today we will be discussing two important topics under this heading. The first, we will study about the claim to paramountcy and then doctrine of lapse. But before going into the details of these two policies, let us find out the specific objective of today's class. So in today's class, we will learn about the various ways through which the British claimed the greatest authority in India, through which the British declared that they are the supreme power, the most powerful in India. So let us begin today's discussion. Let us talk about the claim to paramountcy. So you must be thinking, what exactly is this paramountcy? Well, paramountcy means the superior power. Okay, somebody who has got great authority, great power, great influence in a particular country. That is called paramountcy. So by the 19th century, the British East India Company, they tried to extend their territory very, strictly. They pursued aggressive policies in order to ensure that India is now under their dominance. So accordingly, the then Governor General, Lord Warren Hastings, he started a new policy of paramountcy. Okay, and according to that policy, he declared that the company rule was supreme, it was the greatest, and it had great authority over the Indian states. So there was nobody more powerful than the company in India. Okay, but do you think that taking away territories from the Indian rulers were that easy? Well, actually no, because in many ways and in many cases, Hastings was challenged. Okay, for example, when the British tried to annex the small state of Kittur, then Rani Channamma, a lady ruler there, she took to arms. That means she picked up weapons in order to ensure that the British stopped their expansion. But of course, the British defeated her and she was later arrested in 1824, because of which she also died in the prison itself. Then again, this movement was carried out after Rani Channamma as well, and this time it was carried forward by a poor chowkidar whose name was Rayanna. But of course, Rayanna could not succeed much. I mean, he succeeded to a little extent by destroying several camps and also by destroying the records of the British. But later he was arrested and also he was hanged in 1830 because he tried to challenge the British power. So by now the British was sure that they don't only want to establish trade relations in India, but they also wanted to be the superior ruler, the sole authority in India. So this brings us to some other facts. So in 1830s, the East India Company worried about Russia controlling parts of Asia. So in 1830s, Russia was a great power and it was controlling various countries of Asia. So the East India Company thought that Russia will also try to occupy India and its neighboring countries. That is why, in order to ensure that the neighboring countries are also under the British, they fought a war with Afghanistan between 1838 and also 1842. And by defeating Afghanistan, the company was able to establish its rule there. Then again, Sindh, that means Punjab, it was also occupied in 1843. So the the company wanted to take over Punjab very early, but it was resisted vehemently. It was stopped vehemently by the then king of Punjab, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. But after the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in 1839, there were two wars, long wars which were fought, as it is already mentioned, in 1838 and in 1842. And this time it was the company who won, and that is why in 1849, the Sikhs were defeated and Punjab was taken away by the company. Okay, so the company did its best to undertake as many territories, as many land as possible in order to ensure their supremacy here. Then the doctrine of lapse. So this was a really important formula, you can say, to ensure that the various parts of India is captured. So the main person to come up with this theory or this doctrine, as we say, was Lord Dalhousie. He was the Governor General of India from 1848 to 1856. So it was under Lord Dalhousie that the doctrine of Lapse was devised. Okay, so according to this doctrine, if an Indian ruler died without any male heir means died without any son. In that case, the kingdom will automatically come under the British Company. So many of the kings during that time could not give birth to sons. They did not have any male heir, because of which the company easily, by applying this theory, annexed or took away many states. Okay, and some of the states I have mentioned here: Satara in 1848, Sambalpur in 1850, Udaipur in 1852, Nagpur in 1853, Jhansi 1854, and Awadh in 1856. But capturing Awadh was not very easy, because in Awadh the common people started a movement, and that movement was against the British. And also a revolt started in 1857 after it was annexed by the British. So capturing Awadh because of the absence of a male heir was really difficult task. So this brings us to the pictures of Lord Warren Hastings and Lord Dalhousie, which we have already discussed, isn't it? Under Lord Warren Hastings, we studied about how the British Company was now in new heights of paramountcy, and under Lord Dalhousie, how many states of India, many kingdoms of India were taken away under the British because of the doctrine of Lapse, which was forwarded by Lord Dalhousie himself. So this brings us to finish today's discussion and show you the homework for today. So first of all, you need to explain the doctrine of Lapse. Then you need to write down the name of that Governor General who introduced this doctrine. Then you have to write down as to who initiated a new policy of paramountcy and what was that policy. You need to write that in a sentence. Then you need to explain the new policy of paramountcy, how it was challenged. Okay, so it was challenged by two people, especially in Kittur, so you have to explain that. And then you have to write about the years when Afghanistan was taken over by the British, and then you need to write the name of the kingdoms which were annexed on the basis of the doctrine of Lapse, which we just discussed. And since these are all small questions, really short, all for 1 and 2 marks, therefore I request you all to immediately start writing the homework as soon as you finish watching the video, and also as soon as you go through these two topics, that is paramountcy and doctrine of Lapse, from your textbook. Immediately start writing it and submit it to me latest by tomorrow, that is Saturday the 30th of May. So thank you students for your cooperation.